Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Transformational Tuesday this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Listen, how triggers, we're talking about triggers this morning. Okay. How triggers, right, disguise themselves as wisdom, you guys. How triggers disguise themselves as wisdom. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Listen, I'm excited about today's conversation because we're talking about the hesitation habit, right? When fear disguises itself as wisdom. All right. So I want you to think about what fears really rise up when you imagine choosing something that centers you, that gives you peace, that brings you some joy, right? That an experience that is aligned with your true desire. Okay. Now, is it a fear-based truth or is it an outgrown a wound you've outgrown or overcome, okay? Because that is the position of today's life lesson, all right? Why? Because so many people confuse fear with discernment. So I know that this even creating this session was a little I had to ask myself these same questions, right? Because we talk about trusting our bodies and learning to trust our bodies and and being intuitive and things like that, right? But why did I create this session for this life lesson? Because so many people confuse fear with discernment. All right. They've been taught to call their hesitation wisdom, right? But in reality, it's often an emotional reaction that's really rooted in pain, you guys. And we know that when something is rooted in pain, then we tend to avoid it, right? So this session is really there to help you recognize your hesitation, not as failure or confusion, but as a sacred signal, right? To really a place that needs truth, not avoidance. All right. So let me say that again. This session is there to help you recognize your hesitation, not as failure or confusion, you guys, but as a sacred signal, right? A place that needs trust, not avoidance. All right. All right. Listen, being triggered doesn't mean you're broken. All right. It is the body's mechanism, right, to really help you know that what you're stepping into this law of expansion. All right. Right. It means you're being invited, which means that you're being invited to heal. All right. So this session won't rush you through the discomfort, and it wasn't created to really rush you through that discomfort. It's here to teach you though, and it will teach you how to face it honestly and with grace so that you can act in power, you guys, and not panic, Good morning. Good morning. I just want to welcome you back. Welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. Okay. I'm Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, been a clinical therapist for 20 years, and I'm also the creator of the Stop It Now mythology in the Stop It Now book, okay? In the Stop It Now framework, which we use in life lessons every week. And today we're talking about triggers. It's Tuesday, and we're talking about triggers. It's Transformational Tuesday, and I'm hoping that this conversation is truly transformational. Okay, it's truly transformational. Now, the conversation may trigger you because I'm using words that you have been comfortable with using, but understand this, in this session is not meant to move you in any way. It is meant for you to be curious though. So I'm asking you to bring your curiosity to the table, to just listen. All right, all right. Because today we're taking you beyond your fears. Like this conversation is truly here to take you beyond your fears and really help you to get curious about your life. All right. We're talking about what really matters, or really, what really makes you hesitate when it's time to decide, you guys, when it's time to decide, because underneath every delayed decision is usually a story, some fear, or a wound that really hasn't been witnessed, you guys, hasn't been expressed and hasn't been experienced. All right. So today we want to witness it. We want to witness that with compassion, though, with grace, with understanding. We don't want to witness it with judgment. Okay. We want to witness it with compassion. So, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Pep. Good morning, Pep. So, let's take our deep breath. Just getting present. We already did what we're supposed to do in our person, right? This morning. All right. Feel our feet on the floor. All right. Our legs, our butts in the seat if we're sitting down. All right. If we're laying down, just kind of moving our legs, wiggling our toes. Okay. Our backs, feeling our backs on the back of the seat, on the bed, right, on the chair. All right. Bringing some presence to every organ on this transformational Tuesday, just being present with it. We don't really have to do anything. Just going to bring some presence to that, to our toes, to our torso, right? To our heart space, just feeling our hearts fill up this morning, right? With some love and generosity and compassion. All right. Up our necks, getting present in our shoulders where we really carry a lot of weight. Okay. Just feeling that, right? Not judging it, just feeling it down our arms, in our hands. Let's activate our hands today. Okay. Our face. Okay. Up our necks, our chin, lips, nose, eyes, our brains, right? Let's activate our brain this morning. All right. And let's kind of silently connect, right? Our brain to our heart. So if we can see a line, just kind of connecting our brain to our heart and then our hearts to our feet, right? And then connecting our feet back to our heart, then our hearts back to our brains, okay? And then feeling the space around us, all right? Just our skin, our largest organ in our body, just being present this morning, all right? On this Transformational Tuesday. Okay, now drop a word in the chat. Tell me how you feeling this morning. How are you feeling this morning? I'm feeling good. I'm a workout this morning. I'm a walk in. I gotta be there at 10. They walk in at 10:05, 10:10. And yeah. So me and my trainer, he said I trigger him because I'm walking in at 9:10. But I'm gonna do that this morning. I mean 10:10. All right. But I'm feeling good to be able to move my body. All right. So who is this session for? All right. This session is for you if you freeze when it's time to make important choices. All right. If you label your fear as wisdom to avoid change. All right. If you fear making the wrong move more than staying stuck, okay. If you fear making the wrong move more than stuck, all right. And if you're holding or if you hold your desires hostage to the approval of others, all right. If you hold your desires hostage to the approval of others, right. This is for you really. If your pause is protection, right, but you're really ready to step into your power. All right. If your pause is protection and you're really ready to step into your power, Pep said he is at ease. That is a good place to be, Pep. I like ease because it just means, hey, I'm ready for whatever comes. Right. I'm ready for whatever comes. All right. So what does it mean? What do I mean when I say fear disguising itself as wisdom? Okay. Right. It means that we put on a mask. All right. And speak in a tone of, it means fear puts on a mask and it speaks in this tone of caution or discernment or logic or spiritual waiting or just being responsible. Right. I just want to say this, that I have to go back to the fact that we are intelligent beings, right? In our mind, that motivational triad, it wants to conserve energy, remember? Right. So a big part of conserving energy is keeping us away from pain. All right. And so when we've experienced something that has been painful, the mind is so sophisticated. Good morning, brother. The mind is so sophisticated that it will create a narrative to avoid the pain. And if we don't really recognize and be honest, and I think that's what it is, if we're not honest of our feelings, right, then we will allow that mechanism to become the driver. All right. We will allow fear to become the driver. Right. And this is why um, it's so good to be honest, right? It's so logical to be honest because when we're not honest, then our body will start to take on mechanisms, and now we're performing, and we could be performing and not even know we're performing. Okay, so it means that fear puts a mask on, or fear, it means fear puts on a mask, right, and speaks in the tone of caution, discernment, logic, spiritual waiting, right, being responsible. So instead of you hearing fear say, I'm scared to fail, you hear it say, it's not the time, it's not the right time, right? Let me pray on it a little bit more. All right. I need to be sure that God said this. All right. I just don't want to rush. Right. I want to be wise, or I'm being wise. But underneath that calm tone is a sacred nervous system. Okay. Trying not to get hurt. Trying not to get hurt. Okay. So here's how you know the difference. Fear, it comes with it, with anxiety, urgency, and overthinking. All right. Wisdom, though, it feels calm, even when it says not yet. Okay. Fear, it's motivated by people pleasing and perfection. Right. So I know that if I'm trying to do the right thing, say the right thing, make this look right, it's motivated in perfection. Right. So anything about rightness and not action, right? Typically it's fear. Okay. But here's the thing, wisdom, though, wisdom is motivated by alignment, which is your values. All right. So whether I'm scared or not, or whether it's done or not, I value this. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it. Okay. Whether it's family, whether it's a project, whether it's whatever, right? Wisdom is aligned with your values, which is why it's so important to to know what you value, right? So that wisdom can kick in, and then you do the thing because it's more aligned with your values more than it's motivated by people or perfection. All right. And what does that look like? Um, you know, Showing up, right? So if I'm aligned with, if one of my highest values is um and I'm just gonna say me, autonomy, freedom, freedom to do the thing that I like to do or speak up. Okay. Now, if it's fear, I may step out of alignment with that because my friends don't like it, because it's not what the market is bearing at that time, right? I may be motivated to do some things that's more in alignment with other people. Other people think I should do, or other people think I should run my program, versus like, no, your highest value is autonomy. Do what you want to do because you like your freedom, right? You like how to set up things and create things. And whenever I'm in fear, I can find myself like, oh, should I go get a job? Oh, like, do I need this extra income? But I know that that is fear, like speaking to me, and it's out of alignment with what I value. Okay. All right. Keeps you circling the same questions, right? So fear will keep you circling the same questions, right? But wisdom does give you clarity, right? Even if the answer is wait, right? Even if the answer is wait, even if the answers don't move yet, that's still clarity. All right. And a lot of us, we will get the clarity, but it may not be, we may not be ready to receive the wait. We may not be ready to receive the answer, that clear answer that we're getting, you know. So we will step into fear because we're not really ready for it. All right. It protects the ego, the image, and comfort zone. So fear often will protect your image, your ego, or your comfort zone. All right. But guess what? Wisdom, it protects purpose, it protects peace, and it protects your integrity. All right. All right. It protects your purpose, your peace, and integrity. All right. Listen, fear, it avoids being seen, judged, and rejected. All right. So it keeps you small, right? It keeps you from really aligning in your truth, right? But guess what wisdom does? Wisdom accepts discomfort if it's aligned in truth, right? It accepts discomfort if it's aligned in truth. Good morning, Mariah. All right. Listen, fear needs external validation to move. All right. But guess what? Wisdom, it moves from the inner knowing. Even without applause, you guys, it moves in this inner knowing. Even when I don't have all the answers, even when I don't know everything. Something is nudging me to move. Maybe even the external validation that I'm seeking, maybe it's rejection, like you shouldn't do that, but it's something in you that's saying do it. All right. So wisdom moves from the inner knowing, even without the applause, you guys. All right. Listen, fear disguised as wisdom is like, I think I'll wait. I'm just being obedient and making sure it's God. I hear this so much, right? Listen, what is really happening is you're afraid to move without certainty because failure would feel like a personal rejection. All right. So you're afraid to move without certainty because failure to experience that again will feel like a personal rejection to you. So the comfortable thing to do is to say, I just want to be obedient and make sure that it's God. Okay. Listen, I get it. I get it. But this is where we get honest. Like, are you scared? You know, are you fearful? Are you fear of that change? Let's talk about that. Let's unpurge that because so your wisdom can then come out and say, I sense that it's not the season to move. Right. After I've evaluated all my fears, right, and I've talked about it, right, then maybe I'll discover that, hey, you know what, I'm sensing that it's probably not time to move, but I'm not shrinking. I'm just going to prepare myself more, right? I'm going to prepare myself more. What's happening here is that you're grounding in purpose, right? And your pause is from discernment, not avoidance. And here's the avoidance part, talking about the fear, talking about the feeling, because somewhere in us we think if I talk about this, then that means it's going to grow, or I'm going to get more anxious, or I'm going to get more scared, and so we will bottle it up and then we will create a narrative on the outside or even in our own minds to not talk about the fear, to not talk about the emotions, but all of it is keeping us stagnant. If that makes sense, put a 1 in the chat. All right. Listen, we have to ask ourselves, is this fear? Is this wisdom? Right? Listen, how do I know this? Where do I feel this in my body? Right? Uh, and do I feel some tension? Do I feel some pressure? Do I feel some tightness? Right? What am I protecting? What am I protecting by choosing something different? Right? Am I checking? Am I protecting my ego? Am I protecting the approval of others? Am I just trying to keep myself safe? Am I protecting an identity, an old identity? Right? And then what am I afraid? Right? What am I afraid this decision may cost me? All right. Listen, is it people's opinion? Is it comfort? Right? Is it my role in this relationship? If it's my relationship with my job or with my peers or with my children or with my spouse or with my mate, right? Right? Is this voice making me small or is it making me brave? All right. And we have to unpack that because if we don't, again, life is emotional, you guys, and we have to get comfortable with our emotions and not judge it. All right. But when we tend to feel, we tend to shut down. We don't want to talk about those feelings. We don't want to express them, right? Because they're seen as a threat when truly they're the conduit to or the catalyst to the thing that you want. But we just have to talk about that. All right. Talk about that fear, talk about that angst, talk about whatever that narrative is, right? So that intuitively we can hear our next move. All right. So our quote for today is listen, wisdom empowers you, but fear it paralyzes you, right? One door opens, the other one keeps circling them. All right. All right. One door opens and the other keeps circling the same cycles, right? The same behaviors. Okay. All right. Listen. Oh, that wasn't that was a truth. But here's our quote. A trigger is not there as a stop sign. It's an invitation to investigate. All right. Listen. Wisdom empowers you. Fear paralyzes you. Like one door opens and the other one keeps the cycle going, right? Keeps the stuff that you're going through, the pattern keeps showing up, right? So the quote is, a trigger is not a stop sign. It's an invitation to investigate. To investigate what? This fear, right? This paralysis. All right. All right. Listen, why this matters is because on Monday we talked about stories, right? And you playing small. Now we have to explore the emotional reactions and the internal resistance that surface the moment you're called to choose something, to decide on something, especially when it's a choice that's centered from you. It's something that you want. Listen, triggers aren't weaknesses, you guys. They're signals, but without awareness, they become your decision makers, right? They become the driver's seat. All right. So listen, your hesitation is not about decisions, it's about the consequence your nervous system has been trained to expect. All right. So this is again how we repeat the old cycle, how we end up on the hamster wheel because we allow that trigger to create just enough space for the nervous system to insert a story of what? Of something it's been trained to expect. And then if I start to look for it, guess what? I will see it. And now I'm seeing that. And that becomes the pattern, right? And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So listen, your hesitation isn't about the decisions, you guys. It's about the consequences that your nervous system has been trained to expect, right? Often this is not even logic, right? It's not the logic that's causing you, right? It's the past emotional injury disguised as being careful, right? Being precautious, protecting yourself. And until that wound, you guys, is named and reframed, we'll keep calling self-protection wisdom. All right. All right. Listen, one woman wanted to apply for a creative opportunity that really lined with her vision. All right. But every time she sat down to do it, she felt paralyzed. All right. And if you ever felt paralyzed, put a hand up because we all have, right? We're going to do something big. Let me say this, and it just keep coming in my spirit. These are things that you have said you wanted, right? You wanted the healthy body, you wanted the raise, you wanted the leadership, you want the relationship, right? You want these things. You set out, you've talked about it, you discussed it. And now as you going after the thing that you say you want, these are the things that come up. All right. And I'm just saying, hey, as these things come up, why do we unanchor the thing that we say we wanted? Right? If it's, I'm going to go out and date, right? I'm going to go out and date because I need to collect data, right? Then as soon as I date the first person and I'm triggered, right? Some narrative comes up. It doesn't go how I want. I just stop dating, right? I'm going to start a business or I'm going to go after a promotion or I'm going to start to communicate better or I'm going to go on a transformational journey, right? I'm going to start healing myself. Whatever insert here is in your calmest thing, your wisdom whisper to you, let's do it, right? Let's do this thing. And then once you start to activate and move, right, these things start to show up, right? These triggers start to happen. And then we will unanchor the thing that we say we wanted, or we will look back at it and make it as if it was not the right decision. When really, how do we know? Right? We haven't even saw it through. All right. So every time this lady sat down for this creative opportunity, right, she felt paralyzed. She says something just doesn't feel right. But after journaling, right, after speaking with me, after journaling some more and speaking with me some more, guess what she realized? She realized the fear wasn't about the opportunity, you guys. It was about fully being seen. Okay. She has spent years in a relationship where choosing herself meant being labeled as difficult or too much. And guess what this opportunity did? It put her in front of people. Well, guess what? She had to make difficult decisions, right? That align with her expertise, that align with her truth. And it triggered that. Everything that people would say about her. All right. Listen, her hesitation wasn't wisdom, it was a trigger. All right. It was a trigger. Once she recognized that, she didn't bypass the fear, you guys. She confronted that part of her, right? That was scared to move. That was scared to move. And guess what? She moved anyway, right? She didn't just apply, she embodied this new identity, right? And she was accepted. for the position, right? Not just by them, not just by them, not just by the supervisors, but by herself, right? This happened like 2 years ago, and just recently she reached back out to me, and and she was like, that was such an empowering moment for her, because when we worked together and we were unpacking the story, she had very sophisticated, answers for why she wasn't going to take this promotion and why she wasn't going to go after this opportunity, right? But when we unpacked it, it was truly that she had this fear of being seen, okay? A fear showing up. Listen, here's our check-in. What fear rises up when you imagine choosing something that centers you? All right, right. And who told you that choosing yourself might abandon others? Where did you learn that at? Okay, all right. Because here's some questions that I want you to invite to yourself, right? I want you to think about the emotions that rise up when it comes to choosing boldly for yourself or deciding boldly for yourself. Again, when I do that, where do I feel that in my body, right? And then what past moment is trying to reclaim itself in this moment? All right. Because as the orchestra and as the conductor of your life, you get to create new experiences. And the only way you're going to do that is to pause, right? Pause and understand what these triggers are. Okay. Because triggers don't mean stop, you guys. They mean pause, they mean investigate and move with your truth. All right. And we have to stop judging our truth as good or bad. It's your truth, right? And here's the thing about what's true for you in the moment, and it's what's true. And I heard Myron Goldman say this: what's true in the moment is true in the moment for you. Okay. It's not true. And none of us is really, quote unquote, living in truth. Truth is gravity. All right. If I drop this, it's going to fall. Right. Truth is things that, like universal laws, right? They're unchangeable. But because we are humans and we have emotions and we integrate and we have relationships with so many other people, we only know what's true, right? In this moment. And what's true for me in this moment is only going to be based on what? The information I have access to in this moment, right? And then if I'm true enough with myself about this moment and the information I have, and I'm making a decision from that, it will blossom another moment. And in that other moment that is blossoming, right, or creating, or that I'm able to experience by living in my truth, by living in what's true for me, right? And by establishing truth. So when I say living in truth, so there is a truth of vibration, a law of vibration, right? A law of cause and effect. Okay. So when I live in what's true for me, right? And then I have these universal laws that's true, right? Then I have a creator that says some things that's true to me. Each time I'm living in what's true for me and not judging that, right? The more information I get. Okay. So what was true for you at 20, and what was true for you at 30, and what was true for you at 35, and what was true for you at 40 or 50 or whatever your grown age is, it may have changed. And we don't have to judge that. All right. But a lot of us are not living with what's true for us because we have judgments about it. Right. So if I say that I'm scared, or if I say that I'm anxious, or if I say I'm nervous, then I'm judging that feeling as something bad. So I don't deem it true for me. Okay. And just that shrinking in myself by not acknowledging that, hey, you know what? This is big and I'm nervous, I'm a little scared, right? But I'm also excited. And we have to add the end, and I'm the end, A and D, right? And I'm excited, right? And I'm overwhelmed, right? We can live in all of those, right? But sometimes we just want to be like, I'm excited and everything's good and beautiful and wonderful. And it's like, okay, right? And when we do that, again, your mind will create this sophisticated wisdom, and then we will continue to repeat the same cycle over and over and over again. All right. Tip said, amen. Amen. All right. because what's true for us will change. All right. What was true for me last weekend, I was in California. You know what I mean? What's true for me the weekend before that, I was in California. What was true for me last weekend was I was at home. All right. What true, what things that are true, they can change. All right. It's absolutely 100% Tuesday today. That is so true. Tomorrow's gonna be Wednesday. A different truth for me. Okay. So I want you to understand that. And that's very simple. But some of us have made decisions in our past that was true for you for that information that you have. And we can step into a different and something that's different and something that's true for you today. All right. In our emotions, they're not a sign of weakness, you guys. So triggers don't mean stop. They really just mean pause, investigate, and then move with your truth. Okay. Right. Listen, not all fears are red flags. All right. Some fears, again, is just your nervous system remembering the pain. Listen, but when you choose to lead, when you choose who gets to lead, right? The wound or your wisdom, right? It will make a difference in even how you experience that. But again, we need to be true about that. Okay. Is this my wound leading me or is this wisdom leading me? And it's okay if it's my wound, right? That's where the autocorrect come in. That's when my discernment can step up, right? What came up in my spirit is that Bible verse, come as you are, right? And some of us are not truly in the essence coming as we are, so that the mechanism of this intelligent being can do and shift and make whole the parts of us that may be wounded. All right. We want to fix our wounds before we present them even to ourselves. You know, I was in a conversation with my godmother. I love her. I love her so much. She has definitely came into my life. And you guys have heard me say, like, God has truly blessed me with some amazing women, and so I've never really felt like a motherless child. But I'm in a conversation with her, and I'm in a conversation with her, and I'm telling her about this situation that happened between me and in a male. And I said, he said something to me, and and I'm talking about, I had to say pause. I told pause, I need to feel that. Right. And I told her, I said, when I said pause, I need to feel that, I was like, every emotion came up in me. I mean, the tears started to drop in. And she was like, no, you shouldn't have done that. Right. She's an older lady, right? She was like, you should have got in your car and you should have pulled around the corner and you should have cried in the parking lot, because I would have never let a man see me cry. And I said, I've done that. I've done that. And it didn't work. Right. I I would I would not give him that much power, anyone that much power again in my life, where I'm going to lie to myself in front of them. So I actually stopped them because I felt the hurt. I felt the rejection. And I was like, oh, yeah, you need to feel this. Why? Because when each time we stop in this situation, when I was so masculine and I was like avoiding that, it just, I want to say, like, prolonged the relationship, right? Because I wasn't allowing myself to feel, right? And I was like, oh yeah, we gotta feel that, you know? So I felt it, let the tears come up, expressed how I felt about it or whatever, and it was done. I was done with it, right? But if I would have went around to the parking lot, did what she recommended out of the greatness of her heart, she recommended that, right? Guess what? I would have came back all pent up and put together. And guess what? Resentment would have built, right? It wouldn't have been a moment where he even understood like how much hurt that I had experienced by his words or whatever. And the next conversation that arose out of that probably wouldn't have arose. I'm saying this to say that a lot of us were taught, right? We're taught to to hide that, to not be honest about our feelings, because again, I wouldn't have let him see me do that. But I wanted myself to know in this grown adult age, it don't matter who see you do that. You know what I mean? As long as you're honoring it, as long as you're giving it space, right? You safe, right? Because you get to decide. And in that moment, what she was recommending, in my opinion, okay, we can have a talk about it off this screen. In my opinion, what she was saying was put his feelings before yours. Because what he gonna think about you feeling your feelings is more important than what you're feeling right now. And I just really wasn't willing to pay that cost anymore. Right. If you understand that, put a 2 in the chat, because so many of us have been taught to dim our lights, to not express our feelings, to hold our tongues, right? To go around to the parking lot and cry, to go in your room and do that, to get out my face and don't cry, right? We learned that when we were little. And if we express this emotion, this thing called emotions, or get in relationship with our emotions in some way that they're bad, right? But for me, it's like, no, they're not. All right. So listen, we get to choose. And I said that to say, because it said you get to choose who leads, your wound or your wisdom. And I honestly feel like, and I love my godmother, but that was her wound, right? She felt like it was her wisdom, but it was her wound training me, right? On how to deal with men. Because guess what? Men have hurt her, and she has given that to men, right? And her wound was showing up as what? Wisdom for me. Oh no, you shouldn't have did that. You should have went around to the car, went around the corner, and I did that because she had experienced that, right? And so she only could give me what she had experienced. Okay. All right, listen. Fear isn't, that went way longer than I expected. Listen, fear isn't, you guys, um, fear isn't always a red flag. Again, sometimes it's residue. All right. It shows up not because the decisions is wrong, but because it's new. All right. And when fear arises, ask, is this trauma or is this truth? All right. Until you name the real reason you're hesitating, right, you'll keep mislabeling triggers as intuition. All right. You'll keep labeling triggers as intuition, and that will keep you circling instead of choosing. All right. That will keep you circling instead of choosing. I always say, you get a feeling in your stomach, you get a feeling in your heart, investigate, right? It may not be that something is wrong out externally. It is a signal, but are you just deeming it something like, oh, they may be doing something wrong, or maybe it's coming up so you can choose different, right? Maybe it's coming up so that you can shift how you are going to approach this situation that looks like a past situation. It's new. You get this feeling in your stomach. We call that intuition. But guess what? We're not handling it with wisdom. We're not handling it in the moment. We're handling it with old information, right? Well, I seen you. I understand this. So I'm going to what? I'm going to fight, freeze, or fawn, right? I'm going to reject this moment. Okay. All right. So intuitively, we feel it in our guts. We feel it in our hearts. Our hair stand up and things like that. But that triggers for you to get information, right? To bring into the situation. Maybe it's for you always hear me say this. Maybe it's, okay, this situation about to come up. I need you to be alert. I need you to listen. Maybe there's a blessing here. Maybe the answer that you were seeking is here, right? And so I need to make your stomach feel away, or, let the hair stand up so you can be alert. But guess what? The last time my stomach felt this way, he was lying. The last time my heart felt this way, they did this. So I bring that narrative into every time my stomach do that, and it may not be that. It may be something different, and so we have to be curious. All right, right. Until you name the reason you're hesitating, listen, you'll keep mislabeling triggers as intuition, and that will keep you circling instead of choosing. Okay. The more you understand your internal reactions, listen, the more free you become to make aligned actions, you guys. Unapologetic, which is an unapologetic decision. All right. A client that I had once said, I thought I was waiting for God to confirm my decision. But what I realized is that I was waiting because I didn't feel safe. All right. And that truth changed everything. Listen, studies in trauma-informed coaching shows that emotional triggers can delay actions, not because of confusion, but because of unresolved judgment, unresolved rejection, and unresolved loss. All right. Naming a trigger, listen, it restores your choice. All right. Your triggers is not your truth, you guys. They're your teachers. And I'm going to ask you, are you ready to graduate? Are you ready to graduate to this next class? All right. To this next life lesson. Okay. Listen, we know that the T in stop it is for triggers, right? Right. Which activate fears when you are on the edge of a breakthrough. Remember, last week we talked about the universal law of expansion. So we're going to get triggered when we're trying to expand. We're on the edge of a breakthrough, right? Listen, you don't need to wait for fear to go away. All right. You need to walk with the fear until your truth gets louder. All right. And a lot of us are using our fears to walk away, to shield, to hesitate, and then we're calling that hesitation wisdom, that inaction wisdom, that inaction discernment from God, and it's not. And it's okay. Maybe you just not ready. And if you're not ready, then now you can have a conversation with God, like, God, I'm just not ready, I'm scared, can you see? These are honest conversations, right? But to disguise it as God you take no accountability for your hesitation. You're taking no accountability for, your fears and things like that, right? In the body can't really work with that. All right. The intelligence can't work with that. You can't work with that. All right. Listen, common triggers that's around our choices. Listen to fear, disappointment, right? What if I let someone down? What if I get let down? All right. A fear of failure. Listen, what if I get it wrong? Right? What if I'm not as smart as they think I am? Right? A fear of judgment. What will they think if I choose this? Right? Judgment comes in such a sophisticated way, right? Judgment shows up in fear in such a sophisticated way. And if we listen to our language, we can actually hear the judgment either from ourselves or in how we talk. All right, what we're judging. All right, listen, fear of loss. Okay, what if I lose their support? What if I lose their love? What if I lose their approval? And I'm saying approval because I know that we think we're not seeking people approval, but we really are. And again, approval may be a strong word, but maybe connection, maybe their call, maybe them checking in, whatever that connection is, there's a fear of losing that. And sometimes maybe even a fear of losing what's coming up in my spirit is how they see me, right? My identity, a loss of my identity. Right? They saw me as the strong one, but now that I'm crying, I'm going to be the weak. They see me as weak. That's a judgment, right? I'm used to being the provider, and now that I'm saying no, they may think, right, I don't have it, or that I'm going through a season. That's a judgment, right? That's a loss and a judgment, right? So we have to be very mindful of how these triggers show up in our choices, and then the narratives where they show up at, right? And then the fear of responsibility. What if this choice requires more of me than I can give? And a lot of us have this fear of responsibility, especially when we're expanding, responsible for other people's lives, responsible for other people's emotions, right? In relationships, right? We feel this fear of responsibility, but remember, your responsibility is just your ability to respond. So let the act happen, right? And then if you can't respond to it, then what do you need to be able to respond? Right? Because life is a lesson. So if I'm feeling like I'm not responsible now, then what do you need to be able to respond to that situation? Right? Do you need to learn how to communicate? Do you need a level of emotional intelligence? Do you need to learn how to listen? Right? Whatever that gap is, it's just only there to teach you, right? What you need to develop. So what? So that you can respond, right? And then as a consequence, you'll become responsible for whatever that expansion or whatever that experience was trying to give you, right? But it's not a reason to hesitate or reject it, right? It's a reason to embrace it. Because if you need it there, you might need it other places too. All right. So because each one of these fears, right, is rooted in a womb, not in wisdom, right? And that's why this lesson really is here to teach you to not judge, right? To not judge, right? Because you're not just triggered by your choices themselves, you guys. You're triggered by what it represents, by what your choices represent. All right. Do they represent disappointment, failure? Do they represent judgment, loss? Right? Do they represent a piece of your identity? Do they represent responsibility? Right? And when we can get finite, radio with this, right? We can give ourselves permission and one, just relax, right? And become patient. All right. Listen, many people don't hesitate because they're unclear, you guys. They hesitate because they've been conditioned to consider others first, right? We hesitate because we have been conditioned to consider other people first, and even at the expense of ourselves. Listen, we were made to be in community. That's how we survived for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. All right. So this is not something bad that I'm thinking about my friend, or I'm thinking about my mate, or I'm thinking about my mom, or I'm thinking about my dad. My brain is naturally created for community. All right. So it's not a bad thing that we're thinking about, or that I'm thinking about what they're gonna think. That's not it. Right. Okay, now that I know that, right, now that I know that, I still need to move forward. Now, what am I going to do manually? Okay. Like now I still need to make the decision. I still need to move forward. I think that when we don't do anything about that is where we get stuck. All right. All right. Because listen, the relational root of hesitation is, again, if I choose what I want, will they be disappointed? Right? If I finally say yes to me, will they pull away? Okay. This, and again, any relationship. If it's at work, if I say I'm leaving at 5, if I take my PTO hours, right? If I use my SHA to pay for sessions, right? Right. I had a person reach out yesterday, and I need to put this in the chat, because I said I was taking therapy again, and because I do fee for service, and I need to put in a group like how you can pay, and you can pay through SHA. But prior to her, I remember a person saying, "Well, I just like." Even around their insurance, like, I don't want to be labeled. I don't want to do these things. So if I say yes to me, you know, will my job pull away? Will my friends pull away? Will my peers pull away? Right? Will my supervisor pull away? Where the people at work, I work with middle managers a lot. And when they get promoted, the line that they used to work on, that's very difficult, because now you over those people. These used to be your friends you used to hang out with. Now you got to supervise them. Will they pull away? All right. Relationships are so important to us, but they also are the places what? That we are triggered the most. All right. Listen, if I, and another thing is, if I shift this dynamic, will I lose their support? Will I lose their comfort? Will I lose their love? Okay. And if I change, will I outgrow them? Will I outgrow them? Okay. Again, a narrative that we've gotten about outgrowing people, right? It's a bad thing. We don't really have enough experiences where we've seen people who outgrown their community but still stay rooted in their community. So it's kind of like this betrayal again that we feel on the inside. So what that does is make us hesitate. All right. These aren't these aren't just thoughts, you guys. They're survival patterns. All right. They're emotional survival patterns that many of us have learned in our childhood or in our past relationships. All right. Um, Especially the hopeless romantic, right? The person that is in relationship, right? The person that's hiding from their relationship, right? One of my avatars is this hopeless romantic, right? The person who wants love but won't say it. The person who desires to be in committed relationships but won't say it, right? And as a consequence, they've built their professional life, right? They built this professional life, so they're performing in their professional life. They're doing very great work, highly educated, income sustained, right? Probably date, right? But in the core, she wants to be seen, right? She wants to be loved. She wants to be supported, right? She doesn't want this baggage, but she felt like this is all that I have, right? Listen, she learned to earn love by being agreeable, right? And she just not willing to be agreeable anymore. So she doesn't have love, but doesn't mean she doesn't desire it, right? She learned to be the strong one, right? Because everybody in her family is looking out for her, or everybody in her family she had to look out for. She's probably still taking care of her mom, right? Her mom and her dad may have like her mom and her may have like a flipped relationship where she's more of the parent, all right, co-regulating the relationship. She's learned to self-sacrifice. So she's a self-sacrificing one, holding everybody down. Everybody called auntie, you know, right? And this person was just really taught to hold it all together. Okay, right? So when it's time for her to face a decision, right? And that her could be you as a man, because I do talk to men who like this, but listen, when when it comes to her facing a decision to really center herself, right? It doesn't feel scary, you guys. It feels like betrayal, right? Because my avatar, the person that I feel like I was created to help, has truly sacrificed everything for everybody else, right? Like they have truly, and they've owned it. That this is their identity. I help people. I'm the fixer. I'm the person that people can call. And guess what? They feel resentment about that, and they want help now. They just don't have the language for it, right? So when we talk about now centering you, right, and taking action for you in your life, guess what? It feels like betrayal. All right, because guess what? Your nervous system is wired to connect, not to connect through self abandonment. It's safe for me to look out for mama. It's safe for me to take care of my little brothers. It's safe for me to take care of, my friends, my family, my loved one, not because it's comfortable, but because it's what I've been doing all my life, right? And now you saying to say no to them and choose me, right? So your nervous system has gotten used to, right, self abandonment, right? Even though it has created with like this feeling of numbness in you, even though it has created this dis-ease in you, even though it has created this weight in you in this life that is causing you so much dis-ease, it's just like, but when you go to choose you, right, it's a problem, right? It's a problem, right? Your nervous system will create a trigger and you will say, well, I just don't have the time to work out. I just don't have the time to start that business. I know I need to do this for myself, but I just don't have the time to. When really you're busy still being loyal to everybody else. All right, listen, you're not afraid to choose. You're afraid of what that choice may cost you. All right. So here's the truth. Any relationship that only survives when you silence your needs, listen, that isn't love, right? It's loyalty to dysfunction. It's loyalty to dysfunction. All right. It's loyalty to dysfunction. So I want you to know that you're not selfish by choosing what's true for you. You're not disloyal by honoring your peace, and you're not abandoning others when you return to yourself. All right. In the right relationships, right? The right relationships, because all those relationships can stay. But when you start to choose you, the right relationships will start to come, and they will meet you in what's true for you. All right. And not punish you for that. All right. And they won't punish you for that. All right. Put a heart in the chat if that makes sense. All right. We're going to go to our biblical wisdom, you guys. Listen, our principal verse is Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord God goes with you. All right. Do not be afraid because the Lord God goes with you. Listen, courage isn't the absence of fear, you guys. It's the presence of truth. All right. So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord God is with you. He will never leave or forsake you. Listen, this verse is often quoted in moments of transition, right? But in the context of decision making, an emotional trigger, it really hold a deep power, right? Your It really holds a deep power. All right, listen, courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward even while fear is present. All right. Listen, God, the God within you, the God within you, it doesn't run. It doesn't run from fear, right? It walks with it. It walks with it with you. All right. Well, listen, your hesitation isn't a sign of failure, you guys. It's a cue to reach inward, not outward, okay? And your divine presence isn't only reserved for the bold version of yourself, right? It's present for the trembling. It's present for the fear. It's present for the times when you're feeling that. All right. All right, listen. God doesn't just dwell in certainty like that, right? He shows up in your courage, right? God doesn't just drill in your certainty, He shows up in your courage too. So every step forward, no matter how small, right, is walked with presence, right? With divine presence. Okay. And we need to know that. So be strong and courageous and do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord God goes with you, right? He will never leave or forsake you, right? That means in all your endeavors, right? Good morning, Miss Jackie. That means in all your endeavors, not just when you're courageous, not just when you're perfect, not just when you have it all pent up together, but in all ways. All right. Right. So, and our promise verse, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Okay, that's 2 Timothy 1:7. Listen, you're not led by fear. You are led by power, by wisdom, and by divine presence, you guys. Listen, in the context of transformational decision making, like this verse is is an identity anchor. All right, listen. The moment you feel triggered, right, your nervous system may say you're not safe. Right, you'll mess it up again. They'll leave you if you do this. Right, you doing too much. All right, but listen, but this verse gently reminds us that, listen, this voice is not your divine design, right? That's fear talking. That's not God, right? Because you were built what? In love, in power, which is you have what you need to choose. So you are equipped to choose, all right? In love, right? You can honor yourself and others through what? Through truth, right? In a sound mind, you are not just inspiring, you're anchored in clarity. All right. You're not just inspiring, you're not spiraling, you are anchored in clarity. You're not confused. All right. Listen, when fear rises, don't just ask what you feel, ask what God planted in you. And believe me, power, love, and clarity will always be the answer. You know, I always say, especially in expanding times for me, I'm like, I could feel that angst come up, and I'm like, you was created with love, power, and a sound mind. You know, if something happens, like I'm reminding myself that I am safe, right? That is our job as adults, right? To expand and to allow ourselves to see that this expansion is not a threat to the person I'm becoming. It is a threat to the person I was, because I will no longer be that. So the body is just doing what it was conditioned, what it was trained to do. Is trying to preserve that version of me. But the conscious me, the divine me, understands that there's other versions of me that wants to be realized, that wants to be expressed. And it is my job to make sure that those versions of me get experienced. And so I am the conduit, the catalyst between the old version of me and this new version of me, right? And so as life is coming through me, in a sense, right, I am saying, listen, I'm safe, right? This new experience that's going to come around, it's safe for me to have. But when I don't take the lead like that, and I don't allow the divinity within me, the God presence within me, to assure me of that truth, right? Then guess what happens? This new experience starts to come. This is my old experience, right? This new experience starts to come, and I start to feel this gap, between what I knew and what I still have yet to experience. And I start to feel this dis-ease. And all of my stuff come up. Oh, what if this and what if that? And if I don't align, one, if I don't know my values and why this new experience is needed, right? That's one. But two, if I don't anchor myself and really let myself know that this experience is true, this experience is safe, this experience is okay, right? And this one is dying off and it's just trying to hold itself. If I don't do that, guess what? This experience is going to keep coming back to me over and over again. As life go to push it away, like it will, I'm pulling it back. Wait, I ain't ready to leave you yet. Right? And I am and the title today is hesitation, fear disguised as hesitation, because as I'm pulling back this old experience, I'm saying God doing that. Wait a minute, hold on. God wants this for me. Let me just sit and pause and wait. Let me see. Let God tell me when I'm ready to let this go. When it's truly your nervous system not ready to let it go. And that's okay, right? And that's okay. But let's let it go, right? And with the understanding that fear is going to happen, because guess what? Your fear is real, but it's not the ruler, right? But it's not your ruler. God doesn't give you fear as your compass, you guys. He gives you his presence, he gives you its presence, it gives you its wisdom, and it gives you its discernment. Okay. All right. So these scriptures aren't like these abstract theologies, right? They are emotional safety nets that really help you, right? To help individuals who have been conditioned to second guess their own voice, right? To second guess their own voice. All right. So here's what you need to know. You can feel fear, right? But move in this truth that you were built with love, power, and a sound mind, right? And that God's presence is always there. All right. And that don't mean that things are not going to happen to you. And that don't mean that you're not going to have good days and bad days. It just don't mean that. You will. All right. All right. So here's our how do we integrate that into today's session? Our first action is we need to notice the emotion, right? So where do I feel it in my body? All right. We need to name the story, right? What am I telling myself this means, right? We need to ask for truth, right? What is actually true about this moment, right? And then we need to choose a response, right? What does the version of me align with love and power? Choose. All right. Your prompt for today: what trigger has been trying to protect you, right? Or what trigger has been trying to protect me, and what does that part of me need instead? All right. Affirmation: I choose peace, not panic, right? My fear does not get to lead. All right. And then we're going to set that intention for today. Let's see in our day all the way through. Today, I listen to my body, comfort my fear, and choose with clarity. All right. And then for the next 24 hours, listen, for the next time hesitation arises, it's your bonus challenge. Pause and say out loud, this is a trigger, not true, right? I get to choose anyway. I get to choose anyway. And then you always know I'm going to give you a call, a challenge, and a charge. So my call to you, right? Hello. What truth did you uncover about your hesitation today? All right. My challenge to you is, what fear are you ready to stop obeying? All right. And then my charge is, listen, go shape your life. Listen with compassion, with clarity, and with courage. All right. With compassion, with clarity, and courage. Listen, if this session resonated with you and you're walking away with insight today, listen, drop a fire in the chat. Drop a fire in the chat. All right. You don't need to wait for fear to disappear, you guys. You only need to decide that your vision matters more. That your vision matters more. So let's celebrate our growth together. All right. Make sure you join that coaching lab. It is $47 this month. Okay. And remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. Listen, I'll see you tomorrow, right? When we for Gratitude Shift Wednesday, where we explore the obstacles that still influence our goal setting and how it fuels our failure, you guys, how it fuels our failure. So I love you. I love you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.